Cowboy found a woman in his barn, gave her shelter. Not knowing she was the love of his life, the twin suns of Red Mesa were beginning to dip below the jagged horizon, casting long orange shadows over the dusty plains. Jace Calloway, a rugged frontier rancher, wiped the sweat from his brow and surveyed his cattle. The animals were restless tonight, snorting and pawing at the red soil. A distant rumble echoed across the valley, but Jace didn't think much of it at first. Storms were common on Red Mesa, and the cattle often sensed them long before humans did. Still, the rumble grew louder, turning into a strange, high-pitched whine. Jace straightened, scanning the sky. There, against the last glimmer of sunlight, he saw it, a small craft spiraling out of control, smoke trailing behind it like a comet. It crashed with a violent thud just beyond his barn. Jace's heart skipped. "Not my barn," he muttered, gripping his rifle, which was more for habit than expectation. Frontier life on Red Mesa was dangerous, but nothing in his memory had prepared him for something like this. The crash shook the ground beneath his boots, throwing up clouds of red dust. He ran toward the smoke, calling out, "Hello, anyone in there?" The craft's hull was twisted and scorched, but it hadn't completely burned. From the wreckage, a figure stumbled, collapsing onto the sand. Jace's pulse quickened. She was a woman, though unlike any he had ever seen. Her clothes shimmered like liquid metal under the dying light, and strange patterns glowed faintly across her arms. Her hair, dark as night, was streaked with silver that seemed to move with a light of its own. Jace knelt beside her, checking for signs of life. She was breathing, though shallowly. Her face was pale, and a faint pulse at her neck reminded him that she was alive. He had no medical training, but he knew basic first aid. "Hey, you're safe now," he said, lifting her gently. She made a small, confused sound. Her eyes flickered open, pale gray, almost silver, reflecting the dying suns, and she stared at him. For a moment, neither spoke. "Come on," Jace said finally, adjusting her weight. He carried her to the barn, ignoring the heat and the growing shadows. His mind raced. Who was she? Where had she come from, and why did she seem so different? He laid her on a clean blanket on the barn floor and fetched water from his storage. She sipped slowly, her hands trembling. Jace noticed the strange markings along her arms again. They pulsed faintly like living circuits. He had never seen anything like it. "Do you need help?" he asked carefully. She didn't answer at first, but then a soft voice reached his ears, not spoken aloud, but somehow inside his mind. "Jace," he froze. Did she just say his name? How do you know my name?" he whispered. Her eyes widened and she shook her head. I do." The sound of something scraping metal outside made them both tense. Jace peered into the fading light. There were shadows moving at the edge of the canyon, small, drone-like shapes scanning the terrain. Alien scouts, perhaps. He didn't know, but instinct told him they were dangerous. He moved closer to the woman. "Stay here," he said. "Don't move." He grabbed his rifle and slipped out the barn's side door. The drones paused as he approached, their sensors scanning for heat and movement. Jace ducked behind a rock, thinking fast. Red Mesa had harsh terrain, and he knew it well. Using his knowledge, he led the drones on a chase, darting through canyons and kicking up dust. By the time he returned to the barn, they were gone. The woman, Leora, as he would soon learn her name, was watching him with those silver eyes, filled with curiosity and fear. "You saved me," she said, finally speaking aloud. Jace shrugged, trying to seem casual. "Couldn't just leave you out there." He didn't mention the drones. "You're safe for now." She looked around the barn. "Where am I?" "Red Mesa," he said. "A frontier planet." "Not much to see, mostly dust and rocks." She studied him carefully. "You help me?" "Yes," he said simply. "You need shelter, and I've got a roof." Over the next few hours, Jace tended to her injuries. Cuts and bruises covered her arms and legs, and she had a small burn across her shoulder from the crash. He used old-world remedies, sterile bandages, disinfectant, a little pain reliever from his supplies. Leora watched every movement with intense focus. "Why here?" she asked quietly, almost to herself. Jace shrugged. "Why does anyone end up anywhere?" She shook her head, clearly frustrated. "No, not here. Why am I here? Why now?" Jace didn't have an answer. He had seen his share of accidents and crashes, but something about this woman, her intelligence, her fear, her otherworldly presence, felt bigger than a simple accident. Night fell and the twin moons rose above Red Mesa. The barn was quiet, except for the occasional snort of cattle outside. Leora sat on a bale of hay, staring at the shadows that danced across the walls. "You don't have to hide from me," Jace said. "I won't hurt you." She looked at him, and for a moment it felt like the entire universe had narrowed to just the two of them. I don't understand humans, she admitted. Jace laughed softly. Most humans don't understand themselves either. She tilted her head. You are different. He didn't reply, only watched her. There was something about her presence that unsettled him, and yet he felt drawn to it. A strange warmth stirred inside him, a feeling he had not allowed himself in years. Suddenly, a soft chime echoed from her clothing. Jace jumped. What was that? Leora's hand went to her chest, touching a small device hidden beneath her metallic clothes. They know where I am, she whispered. They, Jace asked, heart pounding. Who knows? She shook her head. I can't, they will take me back. Jace's mind raced. He had no weapons to fight advanced alien technology. All he had was his knowledge of the land, his instincts, and his courage. And somehow, he knew that those alone could make a difference. He moved closer and placed a hand on her shoulder. I don't know what you are or where you came from, he said, but as long as you're here, I'll protect you. You're safe in my barn. Her eyes glimmered with something he could not name. Relief, gratitude, or something deeper. For the first time since she arrived, she smiled, a small, fragile smile that seemed to light the barn more than the twin moons ever could. Thank you, she whispered. Jace nodded. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing: he couldn't let her leave, not yet. Not when something bigger than both of them was coming. Outside, the desert wind howled, carrying with it the distant echoes of alien technology and unspoken threats. Inside the barn, two souls, human and not entirely human, sat in the quiet glow of the lanterns. One crash had brought them together. The future of Red Mesa and perhaps humanity would depend on what came next. Jace finally sat down across from her. You're lucky, he said quietly. Most folks don't get rescued from the edge of the stars by someone like me. She tilted her head, studying him. Lucky? Yes, he said, a small grin tugging at his lips. And maybe so are you. As the twin moons cast their silver light through the barn, Jace didn't know it yet. But this woman, strange, powerful, and unknowable, would change his life forever. And maybe, just maybe, she was the beginning of something much bigger than either of them could imagine. The morning sun rose over Red Mesa, painting the red plains in bright gold. Jace Calloway's barn was quiet, except for the faint rustle of hay and the soft breathing of the woman he had saved. Leora sat on a bale of hay, her metallic clothes catching the light, and stared at her hands as if seeing them for the first time. Jace moved quietly, carrying a bucket of water and a small tray of food. You have to eat, he said. Strong bodies need fuel. She looked up, her silver eyes scanning him carefully. Food, yes, humans eat like this, he chuckled. Not quite like this, but close enough. He set the tray before her. Red Mesa potatoes, not fancy, but they work. She touched one cautiously, then tasted it. Her face softened with a tiny smile. Interesting. Jace watched her, noticing how she moved, graceful yet precise. Her body was strong but agile, every motion calculated, like a machine, but alive. You're not human, are you? He asked, trying to sound casual. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. I am human in some ways, she said carefully, but not like you. My people, we are from far away, far beyond the stars you see. Jace frowned. You're from another world. He had heard rumors of alien civilizations, but nothing concrete, nothing like this. She nodded. Yes. I was sent for observation, study, and survival. Her words stumbled as if she were translating them from a thought into his language. Jace felt a chill run down his spine. Aliens, observation, survival. He tried to keep his voice steady. What does that mean for me? She hesitated, then whispered, You are safe for now, but others will come. They want me back. They will not stop. Jace's jaw tightened. Then we'll stop them first. She stared at him, a mixture of curiosity and wonder on her face. Stop humans. Humans survive, he said firmly. That's what we do, no matter the odds, no matter the danger. For the first time, Leora seemed to understand. She nodded slowly, her expression softening. Humans, strong, determined, brave, different. Jace shrugged. We try. Mostly we just survive, but when we fight for something, we fight with everything. She studied him for a long moment, and then quietly she said, You are different. Jace shifted uncomfortably. Different how? You protect, care, not just yourself, not just your life. You risk for someone else. Her words were slow, deliberate, as if she were trying to understand his kind of courage. Jace looked away, embarrassed. I do what anyone would do, but maybe not everyone would. Leora's gaze softened. You are human, but special. Before he could respond, a sharp whirring noise echoed from outside the barn. Jace's head snapped toward the door. The drones had returned. Sleek black machines hovered over the barn's roof, scanning for heat and movement. Their sensors glowed faintly and a low hum filled the air. "They are here," Leora said, standing. "They will not leave until they take me." Jace grabbed his rifle and checked the ammo. "Then we'll make them regret it." The drones descended slowly, their sensors scanning the barn. Jace ducked behind a support beam. "Leora, stay low, don't move." She nodded and crouched behind a haystack, her silver eyes glowing faintly as she focused. Jace had seen many dangers in his life, storms, wild animals, bandits, but this was different. These machines were precise, unfeeling, deadly, yet he felt no fear, only determination. He peeked around the beam, spotting the first drone hovering near the barn entrance. Its sensors locked onto heat signatures. Jace took a deep breath and remembered a trick from his cattle drives: quick movements, sudden diversions, and noise. He grabbed a bucket of water and threw it toward the opposite wall. The splash startled the drone, momentarily confusing its sensors. He darted from cover to cover, moving closer to the barn door. Leora followed silently, her hands moving over the floor. Sparks flickered from her fingertips. The drones paused, their sensors recalibrating. Then she whispered, "Watch." With a sudden movement, she touched one of the drones. It froze, whirring strangely, then collapsed to the ground. Jace's jaw dropped. "You did that?" "I can manipulate," she said quietly. "Machines listen sometimes." Jace nodded, impressed but focused. "Good, keep doing it. We've got to get out." Together, they moved through the barn and out into the open desert. Leora disabled drones as they went, using small gestures that seemed almost magical to Jace. He realized that humans could fight with their wits, their courage, and their knowledge of the land, and Leora could enhance that with her alien skills. They ran through the canyon, hiding in crevices, jumping across rocky ledges. The drones pursued but were slowed by the rugged terrain. Jace led Leora to a hidden cave he had discovered months earlier, a place no drone could reach easily. Inside, they collapsed, catching their breath. The cave was cool and safe, at least for now. "Why are they after you?" Jace asked, finally allowing himself to sit. Leora looked down, her hands glowing faintly as she rested them on her knees. "I do not know all," she admitted. "I was chosen. They study humans, find strength, judge." "I escaped to find one who represents humanity." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Represents humanity, me?" She nodded. "Yes, you courage, kindness, ingenuity, all humans. I can learn from you." He felt a strange warmth in his chest. "That's a lot of pressure." She smiled faintly, and for a moment Jace saw something more: hope, connection, trust, something he had not felt in years. "Look," she said finally, "I must be careful. They will return, stronger, faster, smarter." Jace nodded. "Then we'll be ready." Humans survive no matter what. They spent the day in the cave, sharing what little they could. Jace showed her how he managed his cattle, repaired tools, and survived storms. She studied his methods, asking questions and learning quickly. It amazed him how fast she adapted, how her mind worked like a combination of human intuition and alien logic. By evening, they had formed an unspoken bond. Jace admired her strength, her intelligence, her calm in danger. Leora respected his courage, his knowledge of the land, and his relentless determination to protect others. Two very different beings, united by trust and necessity. As the twin moons rose again over Red Mesa, Leora stood at the cave entrance, gazing at the stars. "They will come," she said softly. Jace joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Let them come," he said. "We'll show them what humans are capable of. We'll fight, we'll survive, and we'll protect what matters." She looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting moonlight. "You are human and strong, perhaps stronger than they expected." Jace smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility and the spark of hope. For the first time in his life, he felt that humanity, despite all odds, could stand against the unknown, could fight with courage, and could triumph with ingenuity. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "we start preparing. Whatever comes, we face it together." Leora nodded. "Together." Outside, the desert wind carried whispers of the approaching threat, but inside that small cave, two beings, human and beyond human, found strength in each other. The battle for survival was only beginning. And for the first time, Jace realized that this strange, mysterious woman he had saved might not just be a stranger, but the key to humanity's future on Red Mesa. The dawn light stretched across Red Mesa, spilling gold over the rugged canyons and dry plains. Jace Calloway rose first, the familiar grit of frontier life in his veins. He had spent years surviving on this harsh planet, and every day had taught him one truth. Humans adapt, humans fight, humans survive. Today, he would prove it again. Leora was already awake, sitting cross-legged near the cave entrance. She was studying a small piece of alien debris from her crashed ship, her fingers tracing glowing patterns that shimmered faintly in the morning light. "Morning," Jace said, stepping outside. He surveyed the horizon. No drones were visible yet, but he knew they would return. "We need a plan. They'll be back maybe in greater numbers." She nodded, not looking up. "I can help teach you things, weapons, traps, machines we can use." Jace raised an eyebrow. "I like the sound of that, but remember, I work with what I have. Guns, ropes, fire, and smarts. No fancy alien stuff that explodes in my face." She tilted her head, a small smile forming. "Nothing will explode unless you want it," Jace chuckled. "Good enough." They began preparing. Jace led Leora to his barn, showing her his rifles, makeshift explosives, and the clever traps he had set for wild predators. She examined everything with sharp eyes, noting weaknesses and potential improvements. "Here," she said finally, pointing at his cattle enclosure. "Move these rods, redirect energy. If machines come, they will be delayed." Jace frowned, then nodded. "Got it." "Can't hurt to try." Together, they moved the metal rods, creating obstacles that would slow down drones or confuse their sensors. Next, Leora began modifying some of Jace's old tools. She connected small pieces of alien tech to the rifles, not making them lethal to humans but enhancing their range and accuracy. Jace watched, amazed at her skill. "Where did you learn this stuff?" he asked. "Study, observe, survive," she said simply. "I adapt fast." By midday, the barn looked different. Simple fences were reinforced, tools were optimized, and clever traps hid in plain sight. Jace stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. "Not bad. Maybe humans have a chance after all." Leora smiled faintly. "You always had chance, humans' ingenuity, courage, strength." Before Jace could answer, the ground trembled beneath them. He froze, hands tightening on his rifle. "They're here." Outside, dozens of drones descended, sleek and metallic, scanning for heat signatures. Their glowing sensors swept across the landscape, methodically searching every inch of Red Mesa. Jace moved quickly. "Leora, stay hidden. Let me handle this first." She shook her head. "No, together, we stronger together." He nodded. "Okay, together." The first wave of drones reached the barn. Jace fired, taking out one with precise shots. Sparks flew as the second drone hovered near the trap he had set. A tripwire snapped, sending a small load of dust and debris into its sensors. It wobbled, trying to recalibrate. Leora stepped forward, her hands glowing faintly. She touched the drone and it froze midair, then slowly fell to the ground with a hiss. Jace's eyes widened. "You're incredible." She didn't reply, only moved to the next drone. One by one they fell, disabled by her touch or by clever traps, but more kept coming. Jace realized the drones were adaptive. They learned from every encounter. They wouldn't make the same mistakes twice. "We need a new plan," Jace said urgently. "We can't fight them one by one forever." Leora looked around, thinking fast. "We use terrain, storms, desert, dangerous for drones. Humans, clever, I guide." Jace grinned. "Sounds like my kind of plan. Let's do it." He led Leora toward the canyon's edge, where the narrow passes and jagged rocks could slow the drones. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the first few machines followed them into the canyon. Jace set off small charges along the cliffs, carefully calculated to startle, not destroy. Rocks tumbled down, creating barriers. Drones attempted to navigate, but many crashed into the obstacles. Leora moved with him, disabling drones that managed to slip through. Together, they became a perfect team. Jace with his frontier instincts and quick thinking, Leora with her alien knowledge and precise control over machines. After hours of running and fighting, they finally reached a plateau overlooking a small valley. Jace gasped as he looked below. The drones had formed a perimeter, closing in fast, but he saw an opportunity. "Listen," he whispered. "We can lure them into the valley, trap them there, use the cliffs, use the storms. We can win this, but we have to act now." Leora nodded. "Yes." Humans strong, together, unstoppable. Jace felt a surge of pride. Humanity had faced impossible odds before, and here they were, standing against a technologically superior force and still finding a way. They descended carefully into the valley. Jace had planned it meticulously, marking rocks, tripwires, and ambush points. Leora enhanced his traps with her alien tech, creating energy fields that confused the drone's sensors. The first drones entered the valley. Rocks fell from above, energy fields scrambled their targeting, and Jace fired from cover. Sparks and smoke filled the air as one drone after another fell. Some tried to adapt, but Leora was faster. She moved like a shadow, her hands glowing, and the drones froze or crashed under her influence. Jace felt exhilarated. "They're learning," he said, "but we're faster." They continued fighting through the day. By sunset, most of the drones were destroyed or disabled. Jace and Leora were exhausted but alive, and more importantly, victorious. They collapsed on a rocky outcrop, watching the remaining drones retreat beyond the horizon. Leora sat beside him, breathing heavily, her metallic clothes glowing faintly from the strain. "You humans are clever," she said softly, "stronger than I expected." Jace smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "We fight for each other, for what matters, that's what makes us strong." She looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the setting suns. "You fight for me." "Of course," he said, shrugging. "I fight for anyone who can't fight for themselves." A silence fell between them, filled with unspoken understanding. In that moment, they weren't just allies, they were partners, relying on each other to survive against impossible odds. But the victory was not without cost. The valley was scarred, rocks shattered, and dust thickened the air. Jace realized the drones would return, likely stronger and smarter next time. "We need a better base," he said finally. "Somewhere they can't find us." "Somewhere we can prepare," Leora nodded. "I know a place, hidden beyond mountains, safe for humans and me." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Lead the way, then I'll follow." Together, they set out toward the mountains in the distance, the orange glow of Red Mesa fading behind them. Jace felt a strange thrill. Danger was everywhere, but so was hope. Humans, he realized, could face anything if they were clever, brave, and willing to fight together. During the trek, Leora began to teach him more about her world and her people, about advanced technology, alien survival techniques, and the possibilities that lay beyond Red Mesa. Jace absorbed everything, learning quickly, always thinking of how he could adapt it to human ingenuity. They crossed rocky passes, navigated narrow cliffs, and survived sudden sandstorms. Leora's alien knowledge combined with Jace's frontier experience made them almost unstoppable. And yet, beneath it all, Jace sensed something more growing between them, a bond beyond survival. At night, they camped under the stars. Jace looked up at the twin moons and thought of the strange woman beside him. "You know," he said quietly, "I've survived a lot of storms on Red Mesa, but this is something new." Leora looked at him, her eyes reflecting the moons. "New and important, you important." Jace smiled faintly. "Guess we make a good team, then?" She nodded, a soft smile forming. "Yes, team, humans, strong." As the night deepened, the two of them sat together, not speaking, listening to the wind whistle through the mountains. Danger had not passed. The drones would return, and the mysteries of Leora's origins remained unsolved. But one thing was clear. Humans, with their courage, ingenuity, and heart, could face even the most advanced threats. And with Leora by his side, Jace knew that humanity had a fighting chance to not just survive, but to triumph. Tomorrow, the battle would continue, but tonight they had won. Together, the wind howled across the Red Mesa canyons, carrying the scent of dust, metal, and distant danger. Jace Calloway crouched behind a jagged rock, scanning the horizon. The alien drones were returning, this time in much larger numbers. Their sleek black hulls gleamed under the twin suns, and their sensors flickered with an ominous red glow. "This is it," Jace muttered to Leora, who crouched beside him, her hands glowing faintly as she prepared her abilities. "If we don't act now, they'll take you back and Red Mesa with you." Leora nodded, her silver eyes shining with determination. "I am ready, but you must follow my lead. Humans, clever, but need guidance with me." Jace grinned, a familiar fire burning in his chest. "Then lead the way." They had spent days preparing this moment. Jace's traps were positioned across the valley, rocks stacked to fall at precise points, tripwires rigged to startle and disable, and hidden caches of explosives made from Red Mesa minerals. Leora had enhanced every device, adding energy fields that scrambled drone sensors and short-circuited their circuits. Together, they had turned the valley into a death trap for the alien machines. The first drones hovered into the valley. Sparks flew as Jace fired his rifles, taking out one before it could react. Leora stepped forward, her hands tracing patterns in the air. The drones froze, some toppling over, some spinning out of control. Jace felt exhilaration. Human ingenuity paired with Leora's power was working. But the drones were adapting faster than before. They scanned, recalibrated, and attacked with new precision. One machine fired a laser, cutting a deep groove into the canyon floor. Jace ducked behind a rock, narrowly avoiding the beam. "They learn fast," he shouted. "But we learn faster." Leora's hands glowed brighter. "Yes, humans adapt, survive, stronger than they know." Jace realized she wasn't just saving him, she was saving humanity. Her people had studied humans for centuries, seeking the strongest, most adaptable. And now, standing beside him, she had found it. He led a small group of local settlers who had joined them, directing them with quick, precise commands. "Use the cliffs. Force them into narrow passes. Don't let them surround you." The settlers, armed with makeshift weapons and crude explosives, followed his lead. Red Mesa's terrain became their greatest ally. Drones crashed into rocks, misjudged jumps, and fell into cleverly concealed pits. Every move showcased human creativity, courage, and teamwork. But the alien forces were relentless. A massive drone, larger and more advanced than the others, descended from the skies. Its sensors glowed fiercely as it scanned for life. Jace froze. This was no ordinary machine. It was a hunter designed to track and eliminate. "They've sent a commander," Leora whispered. "Stronger, smarter, must focus, humans." Jace swallowed his fear and gritted his teeth. "Then we hit it together, you and me." They moved as one. Jace fired at weak points Leora identified, distracting the machine. Leora used her energy manipulation to freeze the drone midair, then disrupted its systems with a pulse of alien energy. Sparks flew, and the drone staggered. Jace leaped onto a boulder, firing precise shots at its sensors. The settlers joined in, hurling explosives and rocks. The massive drone faltered, smoke rising from its circuits. Leora reached out, her hands glowing brighter than ever, and sent a pulse of energy through it. The drone shuddered violently before collapsing with a deafening crash. Jace exhaled, adrenaline pumping. "That's what humans do," he said, grinning at Leora. "We fight, we survive, and we win." Leora's expression softened, but she remained focused. "This, not the end." "More may come, must prepare humans," Jace nodded. "Then we keep fighting, together." As the day turned into dusk, the battle raged on. Drones continued to pour into the valley, but every attack was met with human ingenuity and Leora's alien guidance. Tripwires, traps, and energy pulses, combined with Jace's sharp shooting and tactical knowledge, created a lethal defense. The humans adapted quickly, learning from each encounter. One of the settlers rigged a cliffside boulder to swing down on approaching drones, while another used a sandstorm to obscure their movements. Every move was calculated, every risk measured, and yet the courage of the human heart shone brighter than the fear of death. In the midst of battle, Jace caught sight of Leora fighting beside him, her hands glowing like twin stars as she disabled drones with precision. He realized then that she wasn't just powerful, she had chosen him, chosen humanity because of what they represented: courage, ingenuity, and heart. A new wave of drones arrived, larger and faster than before. Jace shouted to the settlers, "Focus on the traps." "Don't let them reach us." Leora joined him, their movement synchronized. Jace fired, she pulsed energy, the settlers attacked, and the valley became a storm of chaos and brilliance. Sparks flew, rocks tumbled, and energy waves disabled drones in midair. Then came the final moment. A massive ship descended, its shadow eclipsing the twin suns. Its engines roared, sending tremors through the ground. The drone commander had called for reinforcements. Jace felt a surge of fear, but he didn't show it. He looked at Leora. "This is it," he said. She nodded. "We finish this together, humans unstoppable." Using a combination of clever tactics, precise shooting, and Leora's alien abilities, they set a trap for the ship. Jace directed explosives along the canyon walls, while Leora created energy pulses to interfere with its systems. The ship descended into the valley, unaware of the hidden dangers. With a deafening roar, the canyon erupted. Rocks tumbled, explosives detonated, and energy pulses struck the hull. The ship faltered, its engines failing. Drones crashed into the valley as the humans and Leora pressed their attack. Finally, with a last synchronized effort, Leora sent a massive pulse of energy through the ship. Sparks flew, and the ship shuddered before crashing into the canyon floor with a thunderous impact. Smoke and fire rose into the sky as silence settled over the battlefield. Jace stood chest-heaving as he watched the smoke rise. Around him, the settlers cheered, exhausted but victorious. He looked at Leora, who stood beside him, her hands still glowing faintly. "You did it," he said, awe in his voice. "No, we did it," she replied. "Humans strong together survive." Jace felt a rush of pride. This wasn't just a victory over alien technology. This was a triumph of human courage, ingenuity, and heart. Against a force far superior in power, they had survived and prevailed through determination and clever thinking. Leora looked at him, her expression softening. "You saved me again, but more, you saved humans. You prove a humans strong, brave, worthy." Jace shook his head, smiling. "No, you saved us too. Without you, we wouldn't have had a chance, but we fought together, and that's what counts." For the first time, Jace realized something profound. Humans weren't just survivors, they were innovators, fighters, and caretakers. They faced impossible odds and still found a way to prevail. And with allies like Leora, their potential was limitless. As night fell over Red Mesa, the twin moons rising over the horizon, Jace and Leora stood together, looking at the aftermath of the battle. Smoke and debris filled the valley, but the humans and their new ally had survived. The settlers began rebuilding, tending to the wounded and fortifying their position. Jace turned to Leora. "Tomorrow, we rebuild. We make this place stronger. And we get ready for whatever else comes our way." She nodded, her eyes reflecting the moons. "Yes, together, humans unstoppable." For a moment they simply stood there, the wind carrying the scent of dust, fire, and victory. The battle was won, but the war for survival and for the future of humanity on Red Mesa was far from over. And yet Jace felt something he had never felt before, hope. Not just for himself, not just for Leora, but for humanity. Against impossible odds, with courage, ingenuity, and heart, humans could survive, humans could thrive, and humans could love. He looked at Leora, and in that moment he knew she was more than a mysterious woman from the stars. She was his partner, his ally, and perhaps the love of his life. The twin moons glowed above them as the wind whispered through the canyons. On Red Mesa, humanity had struck back, and it had won. The first light of dawn spilled across Red Mesa, washing the valley in gold and red. Smoke from the previous day's battle still curled in the wind, but life was returning to the planet. The settlers worked quietly, repairing buildings, tending to injured cattle, and cleaning up debris from the alien attack. Jace Calloway stood on a rocky ledge, looking out across the valley. His rifle was slung over his shoulder, but his hands were relaxed. He had survived countless storms on Red Mesa, faced wild animals, and even hostile humans, but nothing compared to yesterday's battle. Yet despite everything, humanity had triumphed. Leora emerged from the barn, her metallic clothing catching the morning light. She approached Jace with calm grace, her silver eyes reflecting hope and warmth. "You, humans, strong," she said softly. "You fight, survive, care for each other, for me, for your world." Jace smiled faintly. "We do what we must, that's who we are, that's what makes us human." She nodded, stepping closer. "And that is why I stayed, why I will stay, with you, with humans, Red Mesa safe." Jace felt a warmth in his chest he had never felt before. For days, he had been fascinated by her strength, her intelligence, and her otherworldly abilities. But now he realized it went deeper. Leora had become more than an ally. She was his partner, his equal, and perhaps the love of his life. They walked together through the valley, surveying the repairs and preparations. Settlers worked with quiet determination, guided by Jace's leadership and Leora's insight. What had once been a fragile frontier settlement was now a stronghold, fortified not only with clever traps and alien-enhanced technology, but with the courage and ingenuity of its people. "Tomorrow," Jace said, "we make this place even stronger. We'll train the settlers, improve defenses, and make sure we're ready if anything else comes." Leora nodded. "Yes, humans learn, adapt, stronger than before." The settlers gathered around the barn later that day, curious and cautious. Many of them had never seen someone like Leora before, a woman who was human in form but clearly beyond human in knowledge and skill. She stepped forward, speaking carefully, teaching them new ways to reinforce the valley, repair tools, and even use simple energy-based defenses. Jace watched from a distance, proud. Humans were learning quickly, eager to survive and thrive. and with Leora guiding them, they would be ready for whatever the universe threw their way. That evening, Jace and Leora sat together outside the barn, looking at the twin moons rising above the horizon. The wind carried the scent of dust and the distant tang of repair fires. "You know," Jace said, breaking the silence, "I never expected to meet someone like you in a barn on Red Mesa, and yet here you are." Leora turned her eyes toward him, silver and steady. "I never expected humans like you, brave, clever, strong, kind." He chuckled softly. "Kind, well, I try, but sometimes I fail." "You do not fail," she said quietly. "You protect, care, fight, and survive. That is enough. That is more than enough." Jace felt his chest tighten. For so long, he had lived alone on the frontier, surviving but never thriving, never letting anyone close. And now here was someone who understood him, not just his skills, but his heart. I'm glad you're here," he said finally. Leora smiled faintly, reaching for his hand. "And I am glad I stayed. With you, with humans, with Red Mesa." The stars began to emerge in the sky, glittering above the rugged planet. Jace and Leora sat in quiet companionship, knowing the battle was over, but the work had only begun. Together, they would rebuild, strengthen, and protect Red Mesa, not just as a home, but as a symbol of human ingenuity, courage, and heart. Over the next weeks, life on Red Mesa began to change. The settlers grew stronger and more confident, learning to blend human creativity with Leora's alien technology. Crops flourished where they had once struggled, and cattle thrived under careful observation and new farming methods. Jace taught survival skills, combat tactics, and leadership to the settlers, while Leora helped them understand alien machinery and strategies, preparing them for any future threats. The humans were learning faster than she had ever imagined, quick, adaptable, fearless when it mattered most. One afternoon, as Jace repaired a broken fence, Leora approached him. She carried a small device, a fragment of her crashed ship. She had been studying it carefully, trying to understand how humans could use it without danger. "I found ways," she said, showing him. "Humans can use safely to protect future." Jace examined it carefully, nodding. "That's impressive. And exactly the kind of thing that proves humans can handle anything, as long as we're clever." She looked at him, her eyes soft. "Yes, clever, brave, strong, humans worthy." As the days turned into weeks, Jace and Leora's bond grew stronger. They laughed together, shared stories of past adventures, and quietly trained the settlers. And though danger still lurked in the wider universe, for the first time, Jace felt hope, not just for himself, but for humanity. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Leora spoke softly. "Jace, something I must tell." He looked at her, curious. "What is it?" "I was sent to find humans, strong, leaders, survivors. I never expected to find someone like you. But I did, and I stay because of you, because of us together." Jace's heart raced. "You mean you stayed because of me?" She nodded. "Yes, because humans' heart, courage, love you." He took her hand gently, feeling the warmth and strength in her grasp. "Then I guess I'm lucky too, to have found you, to have survived this, to have you here." For a long moment, they simply sat together, the wind whispering through the canyons, the twin moons reflecting in their eyes. And for the first time, Jace allowed himself to believe in something more than survival. He allowed himself to believe in hope, love, and the future. The settlers noticed the change in their leaders. Jace's courage, combined with Leora's guidance, had inspired them all. Red Mesa was no longer just a frontier, it was a home, a beacon of human ingenuity, bravery, and spirit. And in that spirit, they began to plan for the future. Humans would expand across the valley, using clever traps, innovative farming methods, and a combination of old-world grit and alien knowledge. Red Mesa would be safe, and humanity would thrive. Weeks turned into months. The valley flourished. Children played where soldiers had fought, cattle grazed peacefully, and settlers moved with confidence and purpose. Jace and Leora worked side by side, teaching, guiding, and quietly building a life together. One quiet night, as the stars glittered above, Jace turned to Leora. "Do you think the universe will test us again?" She smiled softly. "Perhaps, but humans stronger together, nothing impossible." Jace nodded, feeling the truth in her words. "Then whatever comes, we'll face it together." And for the first time in his life, Jace Calloway felt complete. He had survived the frontier, faced impossible odds, protected those who needed him, and found someone extraordinary who shared his courage, his heart, and his life. Leora squeezed his hand. "Humans always survive and thrive. You proved it, and we together will show the universe what humanity can do." Jace smiled, looking out over the valley. Red Mesa stretched before him, alive, thriving, and safe. The twin moons reflected in the distant mountains, and for the first time the stars didn't seem so distant or intimidating. Humanity had survived. Humanity had fought. And humanity had triumphed, not because of technology, not because of luck, but because of courage, ingenuity, and heart. And standing beside him, Leora, human and more than human, showed that love, trust, and partnership were as powerful as any weapon in the universe. Jace leaned closer, resting his forehead against hers. "We did it," he whispered. "Yes, we did," she replied, her voice soft, steady, filled with certainty. And for the first time in the history of Red Mesa, the future looked limitless. Humanity had proven its worth, and the universe would never forget it. Together, Jace and Leora stood, hand in hand, ready to face whatever the stars held. The frontier was no longer a place of survival, it was a place of hope, and humanity had claimed it.